Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Merrifield's Gardening Advisor. We are so glad you're here, and I am so glad Peggy's back.
Well,
good to see you.
Yes, and it was nice to have that break, but it's always good to get back.
Been traveling time here.
2 weeks in a row. That's most unusual for me.
Great. Absolutely. Got to spend time with your family. That's wonderful.
I did.
Well, and here we are at the holiday weekend. Can you believe it's Labor Day?
No, it's come very quickly.
So even though, fall doesn't technically start till later in the month, to me, it's always the beginning of fall is Labor Day weekend. The kids are going back to school. The weather's starting to turn a little cooler, which we hope, except for today, I guess. But it's a great time for another season in the garden. So we're going to help you today because we've got an interesting topic today. I love the topic, read the landscape, because that's so important.
Absolutely, and if you think about that term just for a moment, you are, as you're going down the road, absolutely reading the landscape. You are looking at the gardens, whether it's around a home or otherwise, and seeing plants in conjunction with one another and deciding whether you like it or don't. You'll like some and you won't like others. That's just part of it. But in these short trips and vacations that Debbie and I've had recently, we're going to share with you today what it is like to view public gardens or botanic gardens, those gardens that have been set aside for use and beauty and education. And hopefully, before the program is over, you'll see things differently.
See things that you like and want to copy into your own landscape,
That's
possibly.
exactly right. And actually, just as a teaser, let's bring up the first photo, okay?
Okay.
Because it is of the Portland
Japanese garden. That's where, when I was out in Portland, I got the opportunity. Rob and I went and saw this, and it was spectacular. Just spectacular.
The Portland gardens are incredible. Fortunately, a number of years ago, I was able to, my husband and I, to go through most of these gardens. And it is a delight. And we will talk a little bit more about the Japanese gardens as the program progresses, because while you may not want a huge Japanese garden all to yourself, there are so many things that can be drawn from that. Now, what you saw was a public garden. A lot of it is very, very neatly trimmed, and each plant is enjoyed for the value of that plant. And it's a beautiful way to garden. But there are other interesting things that can be borrowed from that landscape.
So lots of ideas today, and we will be taking your phone calls later in this show, so hope you'll stay tuned for that and give us a call a little later on. Before we get started, a couple of quick announcements. It is Labor Day weekend, so Monday, Labor Day, we will close a little early at all three Merrifield Garden Center locations. We're going to be closing at 6 instead of our normal 8 o'clock. So 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Monday, Labor Day. So we do hope you'll come by and see what all is in. We're going to, before we get into the program, we're going to kind of hit on some of the great things that are coming in. So something exciting happening next week. I mentioned it before. Our seminars begin. So if you haven't stopped by and picked up the seminar schedule, please do, because there's a lot of great topics. It is going to be a wonderful, wonderful season. Going to be every Saturday, the month of September and the month of October. And then we'll do some holiday things in November and December-ish. But our first 3 topics are fall lawn care, because it's time to get started with the lawn. Fall is the time. Creating fresh flower bouquets, and attracting birds and butterflies. So that's just the beginning of our topics. So we've got 3 great ones to start with. They're absolutely free, and as I said, they will continue on. And you can not only pick up the seminar schedule, but as you can see, you can pick it. You can go online at merrifieldgardencenter.com, and they're all listed there. So hope you will take advantage of that.
This online thing is so fantastic. I am not a major computer person. I do scream for help, periodically.
We're the same in this, yeah.
But I have learned to certainly take advantage of an awful lot of it. And it is amazing what you learn. For instance, I did, and I've got to share this really quickly, okay? there's a plant that you'll see that was in the Brook Green Gardens, and it's a beautiful variegated plant, and the name of it is tapioca. But I had never looked that up, and I didn't know the reason for it. Tapioca that we use in cooking. The root is what is used for that. So I learned something.
There you go. There
Online.
You go. Well, also online, I don't know if you're aware of this, but we now, if you've missed our show, you can see the past episodes online at merrifieldgardencenter.com. Just go, it'll say what's happening, and they'll say TV show, and so you can see the episodes and the outline and see the pictures that we've shown, that type of thing. So it's great. We hope you take advantage of that. I do want to mention also, if you've been by the Merrifield location at Lee Highway and Gallows Road, you know that they're getting the area. It's getting done. It really is. But a lot of construction going on, and we've been through that the last couple of years. But they've been changing the roads around, and sometimes you'll go by and the road. I went the other day and went to turn left on Gallows Road, and you couldn't. But don't fear, we're open. We've got entrances open on both Gallows and Lee Highway, so you can get in. Don't be shy. Come on by. We don't let a little construction stop us. I tell you.
That's good.
So a couple of other things going on in the next couple of weeks. Also next weekend at our Gainesville location, we're going to be having a photo art exhibit by Pat Gardner, and we're going to have an opening reception next Saturday the 8th from 5 to 7 p.m. with wine tasting and some light appetizers, so that should be very nice. Hope you'll take advantage of that. On September 22nd and 23rd, the Fall Colonial District Rose Show put on by the Arlington Rose Foundation and the Potomac Rose Association will be happening at our Fair Oaks location. So lots going on. Always lots going on at Merrifield Garden Center. So we've got a minute or so left. Do we want to kind of see what's happening at the Garden Center?
To just share this change of seasons that some of us just don't seem to be totally ready for, and yet are. You know, I know with going away on vacation and the heat and whatever else is going on. Right. A lot of our containers are kind of not looking real happy right now, and if they are, and I do have quite a few that still are, you can always add something to it. But now the pansies are coming in, the ornamental peppers are coming in, the gourds and pumpkins, would you believe, are coming in, and I'm going to turn around and reach behind me and just show you. There was a time when chrysanthemums and pansies were the go-to plants. They were the things that we had. Now, industry has opened to us so many things. We have come to realize that this cooler weather will give us flowers that will actually last much, much longer than the mums. The mums have a period of bloom. We have to have them because they say fall to all of us, okay? And they're early, mid, and late season mums, and so you can have them for long periods of time. But in this container that I have in my hand are some flowers that need cool. They can be put in now, and their roots get a good head start, and they will continue to grow as long as there isn't a hard frost. Pansies, of course, will go through the winter. Another wonderful one is dianthus that will go through the winter. It may not be bright and shiny, okay, with flowers, but it will stay in bloom, possibly till Thanksgiving, and then rebloom in the spring. There are other plants in here like snapdragons that will do the same thing. And the beautiful colors of the Dusty Millers add to that mix. And so now we have all these wonderful flowers to work with in so many different colors to add to the pansies and to the mums. And before we go, Debbie, I do want to mention also, I'm going to turn around with this, sorry about that, and bring up something else that is very important. Our vegetable gardens are far more important now to us because we're paying attention.
That's right.
Okay. And I think so many people are including their young people, their children in this because it's such a learning thing. These wonderful plants like cool weather. It's too late to seed the cabbage and the broccoli. Put the transplants in as soon as you can, okay? Put in transplants of lettuces, but you can still seed lettuce because it's a short-term crop.
Okay.
And they grow well in the fall. So these things are in, and what most people don't realize is they're waiting for the cold weather to put it in, and you don't need to do that. You need to put them in now.
That's right.
Now.
It's a new season. Let's get ready.
Right
okay,
now.
We're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back and help you read the landscape. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Merrifield's Gardening Advisor. We're going to help you read the landscape. Not only do you see what your neighbors are doing, but take advantage of these public gardens. They are just spectacular. And as Peggy was saying, they may not be realistic in your landscape, but you can take ideas from them.
And well, it shows you a lot of different plants,
Right.
okay? And it shows you how this plant works in conjunction with another plant. And I think one of the real beauties for me with going to these botanic gardens and so forth is somebody else gets to maintain it.
That's right. You just get to enjoy it.
That's right. And there's a certain pleasure to that, believe me. But from these Oriental gardens, from these Japanese gardens that you were visiting, and I'm
Right.
so glad you got the chance to go
wonderful.
and visit those because it is quite an experience. You learn the flow of things. These gardens use stone, for instance,
Right.
in addition to the beautiful plants, and they use it so beautifully, so that it doesn't look like a rock pile. You know, I mean, look at this. This is a quiet, shaded area. No, you don't see a lot of flowers, and yes, you could have some flowers sporadically through here. But look at the use of the stone here. We're constantly told, accurately told, that an entrance to your home should be at least 4 feet, possibly 5 wide, so that 2 people can walk side by side and feel comfortable. Out in the garden, that's not necessarily the case. It can be or not. These are stepping stones. One person traverses at the time, and it causes you to walk slowly.
Right.
Did you go down that path?
It was so overwhelming. It was 5.5 acres of garden there, and you could go, different ways. It wasn't like you had to go a certain direction.
Right.
And we would come through one garden and wind up in another.
Right.
And it was, after a while, it was like, okay, now which garden am I in? But it didn't matter,
No,
One was just so much, as beautiful, if not more beautiful,
Right.
than the next. But the paths all did lead you throughout the garden.
And that was fantastic. I do enjoy that, and I love those stepping stones because you can't walk quickly.
Right.
You do have to stop and enjoy that. And one of the nice things about that is there's also some, even though they're separate rooms, and you can adapt this to your own garden, there's some continuity too, there's some repetition. So let's bring up the next picture and show you what this repetition is. If you remember the last one, with the stones meandering through, there was a nice little structure in the back. This is further down the path. The stones are used differently. There is again a structure in that landscape, and it makes that stone is very interesting. So it's beautiful. We do need to move along because there's such a temptation to just share all these thoughts with you. In the next picture, Debbie, I know you saw a lot of this too.
We had to take this picture. This was amazing.
Because this is a Japanese maple. It is a plant, but what it is a work of art.
Absolutely.
Because it has been limbed up and thinned out so that you see the structure. And in the following picture, again, we come back to that intense planting. There are no flowers at this time of the year.
Right.
There would be in the spring because there's Purus japonica, there's azaleas, and so the Japanese certainly love flowers and use flowers. There just aren't any visible here, and it is, you want to be there. It's so beautiful.
And it had some color in with the fish that were in this garden here.
Right, and water is a big part of the garden, and the reflection of that. And I would like to encourage you with the following picture. In our own backyard is a beautiful Japanese garden, and that is the garden, part of the gardens. There are many different kinds of gardens there. At the Hillwood Estate and Museum, this is the Japanese garden.
No, this one is still in Portland.
Now this one is? Oh, I beg your pardon. All right, well, oh, I've gotten ahead of myself. Let's back up.
Because they're beautiful everywhere.
Yes, they are. Okay, this is still the Japanese garden, and it is beautiful. The one nice thing that you see in the Japanese gardens is the contrast of the textures and the forms. Now we're going to tell you about two other gardens.
Right.
If you're in the Portland area, all right, back on track.
Then you go to Portland, Japanese garden.
If you're in the Portland area, you can go north of that, a little bit north of that, to Vancouver, BC, and you would have the opportunity to see the Bouchard Gardens. They are spectacular. Paul Knight, who works at the Gainesville store, shared this picture with me because they had been to the Bouchard Gardens. I have not seen them. I hope someday to see them because I hear that they are incredible.
Well, you can see from that picture
the size of just one view of that garden. And so it's worthwhile to do that. Now.
Okay, then you mentioned Hillwood.
All right, I mentioned Hillwood. This particular picture I took in their Japanese gardens, and they do have different styles of gardens. It is on Rock Creek Park. It is easily accessible. It was provided to us by a fantastic woman, and do go online and read some of her history if you aren't familiar with it, because it's colorful.
Right.
And she was responsible for bringing so much art here.
You talk about Marjorie
Merriweather Post. And her Hillwood Estate Museum and Gardens is open to the public, and you will not believe what there is to see, both in the house and in the garden. And there's actually a lovely place to have lunch or something that's very relaxing. So visit Hillwood Gardens.
Great.
An awful lot of people aren't even aware that it's there.
All right.
So it's beautiful.
Well, we're going to take a break. When we come back, Peggy's going to go into our virtual garden and share some of her travels, some of the gardens she saw in her travels. So we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Merrifield Garden Center's Gardening Advisor. And Debbie and I have been taking you on a virtual tour of some of the public gardens that she and I have visited this summer. It's wonderful to share these things, and in no other place can you see this kind of gardens where they are old and established. And so I did go to Brook Green Gardens, which is in South Carolina, this summer, in fact, just last week, okay? And was able to see beautiful gardens that someone else planted and fortunately donated so that you and I can see and learn and enjoy these gardens. And I'd like to point out some of the aspects of these because it's a huge area, but they're divided into rooms. They are adaptable. You will see plants that you like and perhaps be able to use in your own garden. Of course, here in this area, we are doing a beautiful job with our wonderful crepe myrtles. And they have used crepe myrtles throughout there, and there's a size for everybody. This is much multi-stemmed. And then it's layered. They do a lot of layering in this garden, which is wonderfully interesting. Here you have the colocasia, the elephant ears, in beautiful varieties, okay? They're treated as tropical. They're tropical. They don't take our winters here, and neither do the coleus that are down below. So they've given you this beautiful layered look here. And look at the color pickup in this coleus and in this caladium. Those are the things you learn. You see something that you like. Fortunately, most of these things are also labeled, and you can say, you go away knowing what that plant was, but you will learn, oh my goodness, I really like that plant combination. So you've learned something. Let's see what else we can learn through this. Again, Brook Green Gardens. Here is that incredible multi-stemmed crepe myrtle in the larger growing varieties. Now, we don't have the moss in this area growing for it. It's beautiful there, but so what? You know, it can stand all by itself as a focal point. And in the next picture, now this one was not taken at Brook Green Gardens, thanks to Paul Knight, who furnished this particular picture. I just wanted to show the differences that you can get from the use of crepe myrtle. And these, again, have been limbed up. They are multi-stemmed also, but not as many stems, okay? And established. One was used as a focal point by itself. These are used in a line as a grouping and therefore become a bit of artwork. Underneath is low ground cover that doesn't interfere with viewing these trunks. Next picture, please. Okay, another part of this garden is the fountains. This particular garden was used to showcase the ladies' sculpture and other people's sculpture now. So it's divided into rooms, and you can take a lot home with you from the thoughts and the ideas you have of those rooms. Beautiful, beautiful pieces of statuary. The incredible use of water. Water used in the garden is wonderful because it's so soothing. It masks sounds that are around you, and it just makes you feel good. And here are annuals that are used to accent that area, and so you get to see annuals used in different ways. As I said to you, I looked up the tapioca plant, which is an annual here, and discovered, oh my goodness, that is truly the tapioca that we cook with, although I think that specific variety isn't used for cooking. Let's go to the next one, please. Another water garden. Now this is a big water garden, but it does not mean that you have to have a big water garden. You can take that thought and idea with you. There is an arbor. Oh, they used arbors so beautifully here. And those arbors you can put grapevines, you can put wisteria, you can put other beautiful vines, and it gives you a feeling of enclosure and structure, and you really want to be in that space. Again, they've used a lot of grasses. The fun thing was, and I think the next picture may show it a little, yes it does. This was very interesting because these were representing the arts, the painter, the sculpture, the architect, and so forth. But I want you to take a look at the plants that are used back here as a visual barrier. Most of us in our homes want a visual barrier because we want some privacy in particularly our backyard living space, or where maybe your living space is your front yard. That's where you need it, okay? This happens to be an ornamental grass. It is a rundo donax. It gets very tall. It can get 15 feet easily, and therefore become a very good barrier. It isn't invasive like bamboo is, and there's a variegated form that's 10 to 12 feet tall. It's just gorgeous. Let's roll through some of these right now. I could talk forever. Fences, vines give you a good viewing thing for this piece of art that was sitting there. Would not be as visible if it has a really busy background. And so you can get backgrounds from your fencing and your vines and so forth that grow on it. Next one, please. Arbors, again, we talked about the arbors. Incredible. I love it. It's a great way to showcase vines. It's a great way to divide one living space from the other, because you've got to pass through that to go into the other space. And the next one, please. Here again, different spaces accented. You can see as you continue through all of this how incredible. One more, please. No, that's it. Did I give out of all that? Okay. Well, I hope that you've learned just a little bit from Brookwood Gardens, because it was a beautiful place, beautiful rooms, wonderful. We'll be back in a moment to show you more.
Okay, we're back and back out of the virtual garden, but we're still talking about that beautiful Brook Green garden.
Absolutely, and this is a place that I'd wanted to go for a very long time. There's hundreds of acres there.
And this is in South Carolina,
It's
right?
in South Carolina, yes, and easy access off Route 17. And if you're at the beach, it's a great thing to do. And I was very pleased that our son and his wife joined us for that day, and they enjoyed it tremendously. And we spent most of the day there. It is a huge garden, and we're so blessed that so many of these people with all this money and whatever have created these gorgeous gardens for the ages. Yes, they enjoyed those gardens, but they really have been enjoyed now for actually that particular garden in the way it's shown today started in
1931, I think,
32,
something like that.
somewhere in that area. But it had been started before that. The oaks and the things that you'll soon see in some of these pictures were planted by the people before that. And there were huge rice plantations there. And you can actually get on boats and see some of that if you have the time. Unfortunately, we did not. We spent our time in the gardens. And as I said, there's so much to be learned from being in those gardens and how pleasant it really was. In fact, I would like to emphasize that even though these gardens are huge, whether it is in your garden or in these big gardens, a certain amount of repetition really keeps it all together. And so let's take a look at the next picture, and the use of just one plant that has helped to tie all of this. There are, as we mentioned earlier, wide walkways because people are traversing through this in the main areas, and so it's wide enough for two people to walk abreast. Next to the walkway on the one side, of course, is grass, lawn. On the other side is mondo grass. This is a fantastic ground cover, particularly in the shade. It'll grow in full sun, but I don't think it's as green and gorgeous in full sun, okay, especially when it gets hot. This is another example of good layering too. There is a small wall there. There's beautiful underplantings of whether it be azaleas or whatever beautiful understory plant under these huge oak trees. And in the next picture, we'll see a little bit better, closer view of that. You can see the mondo grass. There is a step up of perhaps 2 feet on the wall, and then there's probably a 6 to 8 foot planting there. There's some bulbs like cannas and caladiums, and then a taller wall behind that is another opportunity to grow some vining plants on, whether it's clematis or other types of vines growing over that. So you get that beautiful layered look. And in the following picture, as you had said, Debbie, with your viewing of those Japanese gardens in Portland, Oregon, you've got choices to make.
Right.
You've got paths to follow. And the incredible thing is that you make that decision as to which path to go down as to how interesting it looks, okay? So there has to be something to draw you down that path. But connected connecting those paths, you can see on two corners the heavy planting again of the mondo grass. It seems to help lead you through the garden. And so think a little bit of repetition. That doesn't mean it has to be exactly the same thing, but similar. And in the following picture, you'll see more of that where it's used as a mass planting. Next to that mass planting are fern. Fern are one of the most beautiful plants that you can use as a mass planting in shady gardens. And we have some beautiful ferns that can be used in that fashion. And so you see these things. Maybe this mass could be a 3 or 4 foot mass in your small garden of a thing like liriope or mondo grass paired with the fern and other colorful plants if you chose. Now here is the thing that our son Matthew enjoyed most, I think. In the next picture, there was an alley of young, at that time, oaks planted 300 years ago that led to the original house that no longer exists, unfortunately.
That says South Carolina right there.
It does. And these, of course, are live oaks, okay? But we, in this area, are blessed with oaks also. It's just a different kind of oak. And fortunately, there are big old oaks here, too. To me, this is a reminder, and Matthew was the one who said it at the time, that we plant for the ages. And this is a classic example of that. They enjoyed the beauty of the small oak, but never, of course, got to see the things that we are seeing today thanks to these people. And the fact that it has become a public garden, nobody's going to go bulldoze them down, you know, and that's what can happen. So let's close on this thought of enjoying these public gardens, botanical gardens, learning from them. Here is planting for the ages. Matthew is 6 feet tall, and that puts it all in perspective.
It does. Look at that.
Yes.
Wow. Well,
The beauty of the older plants that sometimes we do not get to see unless we go to land that was provided by someone else.
that's right.
For us.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for these wonderful ideas, Peggy. We hope you'll take these ideas and transform them into your garden in some way or shape. We will be back in just a minute, and we'll be taking your phone calls. So if you have any questions, please give us a call, 703-387-1046. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Okay, it's phone call time. So if you have any gardening questions, please give us a call, 703-387-1046. And Peggy, our first caller is Brenda, who's calling from Chilham, Maryland. Hi, Brenda.
Good morning.
Are you there, Brenda?
Yes, I'm here.
What can we do for you today?
I have a question about spirea. I have a couple of plants around my yard, one that's been in the ground for about 20 years. And in the past, I've kind of just let it grow, and it's really grown. What I'd like to do is to cut it back a little bit. And I want to know, is this a good time to cut it back, and how far back can I cut it?
I don't know exactly which spirea you may have. Some of those 20-year-old ones are maybe one of the old-fashioned spirea, whether there's a bridal wreath or some of the larger growing ones. But I love spirea. It offers an awful lot. And the perfect time to cut it back, depending upon the variety, is immediately after it blooms in the spring. And then you can cut it down to 1/3, and it will come back out right away and possibly rebloom. Some of the old-fashioned varieties won't rebloom, but you'll give it time to grow and set the buds for the following year. So the ideal time is not right now, okay?
Okay.
The ideal time, if you can live with it, okay, is to do it immediately after it blooms in the spring. And you can cut it hard.
Okay. I have one other question.
Yes.
I have hostas, and my hostas have the shoots or the blooms that come up. One hosta plant has been in the ground, again, for about 20 years. It's got about 13 shoots on it with the flower. Is it safe to assume that I could separate that and get 13 different plants because it has 13 shoots coming off of it?
Well, you can say that if you want to. I don't know that you'll want to do it that way necessarily, and you certainly can divide it. And I would say, you know, you may want to wait 3 or 4 weeks before you do that, and it'll still have plenty of time to establish before, you know, winter sets in. But I think I would divide it into fewer than that, maybe let's say 8, okay? Try that. But you can divide it down quite a lot as long as it's got a little shoot. But I don't think the flowers necessarily tell you should make 13 cuttings. But it's a good time to do it.
Brenda, thanks so much for your phone
thank
call.
you.
Hope you have a great day. Okay, our next caller is Susie, who's calling from Charlotte Hall. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you all doing?
Good, thanks.
Morning.
I have a question about my pink resurrection lilies. They didn't do very well this year, and I was wondering if maybe I should dig them up and winter them dry, or that's not the best idea?
The resurrection lily, of course, is the lily is called by many different names simply because the foliage comes up later, goes through the winter, and the stems come up in August, and you'll have these beautiful flowers just on a long, tall stem. If it has been in for a long period of time, you may need to lift it and divide it, but I frankly would put it right back in the ground, okay? I think that's the thing to do.
Okay, thank you so much, Susie. All right, our next caller is Linda, who's calling from Springfield. Hi, Linda.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm just got up, so that's good.
I was going to say, she sounds very
She
chipper.
sounded very chipper for just getting up, okay?
Yes. I have one of those big, beautiful oaks. It's a white oak. And because my husband was a forester and he knows about those things.
Good.
But it keeps losing usually big pieces of bark off of it. I have talked to various people about it, and some people say cut it down, and some people say it's just fine. And I just wonder what your opinion is.
My opinion is you need a good tree man.
That's probably right. It is
No, there is no way that I'd go cutting that oak down until I knew exactly
no, I really
what's
wouldn't.
bringing that on.
I know. It is beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and enjoy.
Have a great weekend. Okay, we're going to take a quick break and come back with more of your phone calls. 703-387-1046. Give us a call. Okay, let's get right back to our callers. Donna is calling from Fort Washington. Hi, Donna.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, and you?
Peg and Debbie, I really enjoy your show.
Thank you.
My question for you today is lamb's ears.
Yes.
I've had lamb's ears contained in a pot for about 2-3 years now, and I want to put them in the ground. I'm re-landscaping a tree. I'm wondering, is it going to take over that area if I kind of spread them around, or will they stay contained like a hosta?
No, they won't stay contained like a hosta, but I don't look at them as an invasive plant at all. Number one, it's very, very easy to pull up any that you don't want. I love lamb's ear. Stackies is the botanical name. And there's 2 or 3 different varieties of it, but by all means, you can move it now. It does have to have sunshine, okay? You mentioned a tree. It doesn't thrive in full shade by any stretch. It will take some shade, but not a lot of shade.
Well, it's really actually under a crepe myrtle, and the way the crepe myrtle is positioned in my yard, it does get sun. I know they get sun.
Right,
so
well, then
I was
it's
going to
fine.
kind of position it towards the front.
By all means, do so and enjoy it. It won't be a problem. Yes, it's going to creep out and whatever, and I think I'll actually seed some of the varieties, but don't worry about it. It isn't hard to contain.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy.
Okay, let's see. Jamie is calling from Annandale. Hi, Jamie.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, and you?
Fine. So I have several mountain laurels, basically hedges around the house. And this year I've gotten a lot of dead spots in them and didn't know what that was from, if I need to cut them out or if it's just a natural cycle for the plant.
Is this our native mountain laurel that you're speaking of?
Yes, it is.
Okay, you're going to get that every now and then, and I don't, as I teasingly tell David Yost, we're Beauty and the Beast. I let him talk about the beasts, I talk about the beauty, okay? So, exact diagnosis needs to be made by someone in that department who is familiar with that. However, I too have the native ones in my garden. And so periodically I do go in and simply remove the dead branches. Now, one beauty of this mountain laurel is that even from an old large stalk, if you cut it back, it will really come out from the sides and bush out and be very thick. And so don't be too afraid. Just remove the dead wood and, if necessary, trim back a couple of limbs. I would wait until next spring to do that, though, and let it come fresh. I love the mountain laurel. It's such a beautiful plant, so good for you for having that. But if you're concerned that it is actually happening to a large portion of the plant, you may want to take a piece of that dead wood in and let them take a good look at it to be sure there isn't an insect in it. But it seems to be sort of the nature of the beast. I've lived with this for 50 years now, and I just trim it out every now and then, and I still have beautiful laurel.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, thanks so much
Thank
for the
you.
call, Jamie. Okay, our next caller is Cynthia, who's calling from Washington, D.C. Hi, Cynthia.
Hi, how are you?
Good, and you?
Good morning.
What can we do for you today?
I wanted to ask, I'm having problems with flies.
Flies?
And, yes, and I recently put together a garden 2 years ago. Basically, I have daisies, daylilies, mums, and azaleas. And the flies just swarm in certain portions of the garden. And what do you think it's coming from? How can I get rid of it?
Well, that sounds like a question that I'm not going to be able to answer in such a short period of time. First, we have to determine what kind of fly you're talking about. You know, I don't know how well you know your insects as to whether this is in the bee family or truly a fly. And yes, we do get flies every now and then, but flies are usually brought on by some dead meat or something that's drawing them, okay? Some manure or maybe a dog or whatever that brings true flies. And I'm very judicious about the use of chemicals. Sometimes you can use 7. But you need to know, number one, is this a good insect that's flying there? Or do you want to kill it, you know? And when you're killing that one, whether it be with a 7 or some of the chemicals, are you going to be destroying other things too? So I think that you need to try to identify what the insect actually is before you determine to kill it, okay? So call someone at our information booths at either of our locations and talk to them a little bit more in depth about that.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. Okay, let's see. Judy is calling from Suitland, Maryland. Hi, Judy.
Hello.
Good morning.
What's your question today?
Yes, I have several crepe myrtle trees, and I have one that's in my front yard,
and it's very, very tall. It's above my house. I've had it really cut 3 times, but this year the leaves are like falling. The tree is full, and the leaves fall, and they're falling. When they fall, they're yellow. And I was wondering if that had to do with the heat that we're having this summer, or just what is the problem? Because I have several trees, crepe myrtle trees, and none of them are like that. Leaves are falling like that.
Right. It sounds like there may be some issue there, especially if a lot of the leaves are falling. It's natural to get some every now and then, but depends possibly on how you're watering, Some areas have had adequate rain here in this metropolitan area. Some, like my own, are bone dry, okay? And so if you happen to be in one of those areas that hasn't gotten good rainfall, and I'm not talking about half an inch, I'm talking about inches that go down into the ground, that may be your issue, but I think we've run out of time.
We have run out of time. I'm so sorry.
Good luck on that one.
Give us a call back at the garden center, and we can finish that up.
Right.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Hope we've given you some great ideas. Next week, Peggy will be here, and we'll be talking about some favorite plants in the garden.
That's right. It's time to plant.
That's right. Have a great week. See you next time.